The joys of technology. I wasn't sure the intro was going to work out for a second there, but you're listening to the Urban Sports Scene. I'm your host, Ray, and it's no secret. You see, I got a special guest on the show with me today. He's DC basketball legend and also the co-founder and CEO of Team Inc. Welcome to the Urban Sports Scene, Mr. Anwar McQueen. McQueen, what's happening, brother?
Hey, thanks so much, Ray. So nice to meet you virtually and opportunity to have a conversation with you on your platform.
Absolutely. Like I said before, I appreciate you for having us, and I appreciate all of y'all who are pulling up for this interview. If you have more information that you need on the Urban Sports Scene, just check out our website, urbansportscene.com. Also, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and other podcast platforms. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Make sure you subscribe to Urban Sports Scene YouTube channel. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, we have super chats. That's not today, though. Well, actually, you know what? You can do a super chat today to support the Urban Sports Scene. Of course, that helps to support the cause and what we're doing here on this great YouTube channel. Also, if you put that out there, the YouTube universe will be prioritized because we're going to see that super chat first and foremost. Also, hit us up on X at Urban Sports Scene. Check out our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page, Instagram. What else am I missing? IG, yeah, at Urban Sports Scene. If I already didn't say that. And TikTok. I always forget TikTok. Shout out to my man Wale. Hit us up on Facebook at our Facebook group. Just search Urban Sports Scene, sports bloggers, sports podcasters, and sports debates. So before we get into the good stuff, and I like to ask like some icebreaker questions. I know that was a mouthful, by the way, but we had the legend on the show. Well, one of our homies, Randolph Childress, and we asked him at the time, what was the toughest arena or gym he played in throughout his career? We thought he was going to say Cameron Indoor or something. And he gave us an answer that shocked us. It was kind of funny. I want to ask you the same thing. And throughout your playing days, it could be high school, collegiate. What was the toughest environment that you played in?
Well, two things I want to address. Randolph Childress. I also looked up to him growing up in DC as well, and actually had a chance to play against him. Basketball careers. He was at Wake Forest, and I was at Cal Berkeley. And so it was kind of a full circle moment, not so much just to play against someone you grew up with or looked up to, but to come out as a winner. That would be something that if I could ever remind him of that, I would definitely take a shot at him for that. But no, I would say for myself, over the years, high school, college, and even the pro ranks, I would say the most like fun, exciting, like rah environment was at the University of Arizona, the McKell Center. Those fans, were on top of you. And, when I was playing at Cal, we had an opportunity, we played them for over 4 years, but we were going into 1 year facing a 93-game home winning streak by the Arizona Wildcats, and it was the Pac-12 at the time. And to go in there in a hostile environment and come out victorious, that's something I'll never forget and kind of cherish for a long time.
Dope, man. I'm giving you the disclaimer now. We're going to get to Cal shortly, but hopefully this is the first of multiple appearances. I always tell my guests that as a disclaimer, like, listen, we ain't going to have enough time today. We're going to get to as much as we can, but I appreciate you for bringing it up. Like I said, I'm going to get to Cal in a second. And to kind of get to the good stuff now, I want to ask you first, of course, like I said in the opening, you're from this area. I'm still here in the DC area. You're from DC. Talk about growing up, playing street ball, playing the Rex, and what are some of the players that you enjoy playing against, playing with, and just shout out some of the coaches and mentors that helped you along your path.
Yeah, so personal background for myself, born and raised in Washington, D.C., specifically 13th and Clifton, right across the street from Cardozo High School. As I, left the neighborhood, if you will, I later learned I actually got a degree, what they call from CTU. They termed it, appointed Clifton Terrace University, if you will. But growing up during that time, it was, catch-22 because it was in the 80s, at the height of like the crack, pandemic, a lot of drugs on the street. I remember, I think President Reagan at the time started, at least that's still something I remember, the Say No to Drugs campaign. So that was the kind of the verbal campaign. But when you have drugs and those type of things in your face, as a young person at the time, like, how are you going to navigate that? For the sake of the number 10 Police Boys and Girls Club being in my neighborhood, that was a physical outlet for myself after school. So I could go to school, after school, go to the Police Boys and Girls Club. And that was my first, I guess, exposure to organized sports. It was basketball that I kind of flocked to. And almost right away, just fell into the favor of just great coaches, people really rooted in, connected to the community. And one person in particular was Ed Hill. We call him Huck. I had no idea that that would be start of a long-term relationship. Consider him a father figure now, but he just had the right ingredients for young people to understand that the future is bright, but you're going to have to, in some ways, trust and respect the process. And so, if I could explain that quickly, what that translated to was, Huck had a no-nonsense type of approach to it, no matter how talented you was. In order to play AAU or for the Boys and Girls Club, you had to have a B average in school. And, he really held us to the fire. I was one of the better players, and so for me to kind of get in line with, you had to have the grades to play. It just created a very positive culture. So me looking back at those growing up days, that was such a key foundation in my understanding of opportunity, possibilities, etc.
Man, that's cool. I'm not going to ask you about the players you played against. You gave almost the identical answer that Dwayne Simpkins gave some time ago, which is crazy. I consider Mr. Hill, basically the OG. He's a friend of mine. I appreciate him a whole lot. And I heard countless stories that I can't go into about yourself and many others, but that's a blessing for real. And I just want to fast forward a little bit for the sake of time. You started there, played in the city growing up, and now you well-traveled. But in all your travels, where do you rank DC in terms of basketball and it being just, of course, a talent-rich area? Have been. We believe that. But seeing where you've been on the West Coast and other places, where do you rank DC still at this time?
Oh, taking my bias out of it, which I possibly can't. DC is still number one, and obviously, I'm getting that perspective of kind of growing up as a student athlete, competing in AAU, competing for those scholarships, and really seeing what schools were coming in, trying to recruit the talent, and then me to be on the other side, being a coach at the Division I level. Although I was based on the West Coast, but I did have a 1-year stint at Morgan State University. We recruited the heck out of DC as an example, that the DMV area, and so I definitely hold that dear. That's number one from personal playing experience, coaching, and just still being adjacent in the industry, understanding that even rich programs, whether it's Duke, Villanova, University of Maryland, a lot of that talent is still coming from DC, i.e. Kevin Durant, Anwar McQueen that went to Maryland. So. Again, everything, I think DC is number one from my experience and perspective.
Man, I tell you, you seem real humble. I interview these guys from New York. I just interviewed the great Charlie Scott, and they always got that swag, like, oh, New York is the best, and we the best, but we a lot more humble. Everybody talks to like, yeah, man, DC's still number one, but we break it down as to why we feel that way. Who else did you look up to growing up? I know you mentioned, I mentioned Randolph. You also agree with that, but we had the great Len Bias. It's so many players I could probably go to from this area. Who would you look up to in your days, your younger days playing?
Well, man, you struck a chord here when you said Len Bias, because that was going to be my answer. So Len Bias was for me was I didn't play the same position. He was just such a phenomenon, right? Just a freakish athlete, pretty skilled. He was the first player, I'll never forget, it was ACC tournament, being broadcast. I think it was at the Cap Center, but watched it on TV, and Maryland was playing, I want to say Duke, but the full court press, Len Bias on the ball, he gets a deflection, gets back to him. First time I saw someone dunk the ball backwards, I was like, wow, I'd never seen anything like that, but he was that dude for me, just in terms of just seeing the local support and the fanfare that was associated with him, or how he kind of conducted his business on the court. Fast forward to the draft, him being, rightfully so selected top pick in the draft that year. And then the unfortunate was obviously that tragedy. That was ground shaking. So despite it being a tragedy for him and his family, it was a tragedy for the communities, and just really devastating for me to see that or witness that. But in the context of the Say the No Drugs campaign, all that stuff, that actually was a foundation piece for me because of his unfortunate experience and circumstance. I was scared to, try drugs, from that point on. I was not going to put myself in maybe a similar social situation where drugs were going to, try to be an enhancement of the evening. But that said, that just shook me to the core. But the positive piece was, looking at his whole body of work. He was someone I definitely looked up to.
It's crazy. His legacy still lives on. You're one of countless guys who continue to talk about how he inspired you, and that's the wonderful part. Like you said, tragedy. We see. I mean, that family had multiple tragedies, but not to go into that. Really, just to say it's still dope in my eyes how he continues to have an effect on basketball for our generation, your generation, the younger generation. Is crazy. So that's the good thing. I'm glad that you were able to bring him up, and you end up going to St. Albans to play high school basketball. I want to know, how were you received when you got there? Did you go there feeling like you needed to tear down sort of stereotypes about people who came from where you came from? Or did you have like a chip on your shoulder?
Somewhere in between. And what I say by that, it was actually somewhat random but circumstantial of how I was even considered for St. Albans. But it was my aunt, Aunt Cookie, if you will. So she was very influential in me growing up in terms of student athlete choices, what schools make sense, etc. And so quick nugget on our coach, Aunt Cookie. She had her son when she was 14. Still went to the DC public school system. Got a scholarship to Cornell, and she struggled. She eventually made it through Cornell, but she's really felt like the public schools weren't really a good foundation piece for her to make that jump from DC public school straight to the Ivy Leagues, if you will. But she was successful and graduated. So when the opportunity presented myself for me to consider St. Albans, it was that typical conversation, community conversation from a family member. Please listen to me. You don't know what you don't know, but give this a chance. And if you like it, it's going to, change your life. And so just to have that, family support of literally leaving my neighborhood, my comfort zone, being a majority, going across the Rock Creek Parkway, being a minority, it couldn't be night and day, if you will. But growing up in the program with Mr. Hill, 3D Boys and Girls Club, tight family, even the people on the street hustling, there was a lot of belief in Anwar as a young student athlete. And so I think sometimes when you're an athlete, you go into different environments. The fact you have that identity, that pedigree, it definitely makes meeting other people a lot easier. And so that even that first year at St. Albans, socially, I got on and kind of, embrace that new environment.
That's cool. Because what I envision, when I read your bio, is you going over there like, don't try me, Slim. You're like, where I'm from, that type of thing. You don't want to give off that, because again, I think that feeds into the stereotype. Although I'm sure it might have been a little bit, like you said, you were somewhere in the middle, but it's a different section of the city. You can still find your mumbo sauce. Hopefully, I don't know if they got carryouts over there. Go music. It's still a lot. You close to home, so it wasn't too far. So hopefully that kept you grounded. In addition to what you just mentioned. Fast forward now. Well, before we go there, you ended your high school career. You played like the Capital Classic. Am I correct?
Yes. 1993 Capital Classic game. Yep.
Okay, so talk about that just a little bit, how that process was. I mean, because now I think for Randolph, when he told us he played against and with other great players from everywhere, he's like, dang, this is different. This is preparing me for what I'm about to see in college. How was that process for you?
Yeah, I guess very similar. I mean, obviously, growing up, you look at certain tiers of things. Are you all mad, or you get the invite to go to the Capital Classic? Because just being in the DC or DMV, that was like the highest stage. If you got that visibility, just the fact that you were on the team and hopefully played well. I mean, you got to compete against good national competition, and that should be the litmus test, right? Are you D1 or not? So to get selected to that was unbelievable. But before I just continue on that thread, St. Albans was attractive to me from someone actually with number 8 boys club. That was Larry Holmes. Kind of grew up in the Adams Morgan area, but he had, preceded me at St. Albans, so that was also helpful in that transition. But back to your question of I lost it for a second. Your question was
just playing the Capital Classic. Just talk about that.
My bad. Yeah. So back to the game, the Capital Classic opportunity again to get selected. The players around me at the time. I remember Jeff Capel. He's now the head coach at the University of Pitt. We had Joy Beard. On my team, we had the eventual number 1 pick in the draft, and Joe Smith representing Virginia, again part of the DMV against the national team. Marcus Camby was on the other side of the ball, but just to go up playing AAU against those guys, get them all in one place, including myself. It's like that was a chip on the shoulder. Like let's have at this. I was fortunate enough to start, play well, and had opportunity to close the game out. Closing the game out with 2 free throws. I think I led our team in scoring and got named the MVP. So that's something that I was very proud of. It was a heck of an accomplishment, and very similar to Randolph. It definitely was the foundation that there's nowhere I couldn't go from there.
All right, well that's dope. And you end up on the West Coast at Cal, and I've interviewed Trisha Stafford Odom, and I also, of course, interviewed Coach Bozeman. They've given me their versions of what Cal looked like. Coach Bowes, he don't pull no punches, he keeps real. But in his words, he said we had the Bay rocking back then. What was your experience like going all the way, like I said, to the West Coast? It was the Pac-10 at the time. And what was just getting on campus? That campus is crazy. I've been there before. A lot of hills, a lot to navigate. But just talk about that culture change and all that good stuff. Again, coming from DC and now heading over there to the West Coast.
Well, Ray, I think you've been nice when you say culture change. I'm hit you with culture shock. My first day on campus, entering the summer bridge program. I'm going to open up a bank account. Walking down the street, like I'm casually talking to you, I see 2 naked people approaching me in opposite direction, and I'm like, what do I do other than close my mouth and stop staring? But it was normal. No one was eye gawking them like the way I was. So you talking about a cultural shock? I was like, whoa, this is what I signed up for. That was my welcome to Berkeley moment, to put it in perspective. But again, back to the foundation piece at the Capital Classic. Coach Bozeman was the head coach at Cal at the time. He came to the Capital Classic, and as a college assistant coach, you kind of go to those events. You're looking for people for certain positions. And Coach Bozeman said he was looking for a point guard from DC to fill out his roster on the West Coast. And I remember him coming to do a home visit, and he did his presentation. I'm from the area, blah blah blah. But he said something that just got me just emotionally charged, like in a Wojo situation, smack the floor, I'm ready to play. He was like, all right, Anwar, I did my spill. Are you going to roll with the Bears? Or are you going to have the Bears roll over you? And I was like, Coach, man, let's go. Let's go. I got your back. I want to take you up on an opportunity or accept that scholarship. So again, it was just amazing having that confidence, already playing a platform like the Capital Classic, and have a national coach like that think enough of me as a student athlete to give me a scholarship. I said yes and not look back.
You played, I don't know if you played with at the time. I think you did. Another light-skinned brother, like myself, J Kidd, one of the greats, man. Talk about him just a little bit, and how does that relationship continue to this day? Like Coach Bo was like, yeah, man, I done been out to Dallas, seen some practices. I don't like what Kyrie Irving does. Like, he keeps it real with his mans. I don't know about you, what type of rapport y'all have at this point, but just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously the opportunity to play in the backcourt with the national household name like a Jason Kidd. He was a local person here from Oakland. Just being teammates, what I can say from day one, he was that dude. Outstanding player, but really from a leadership and mentorship. And so I had the unique opportunity of not so much as playing with him, but when we traveled on the roads, even though we only played for 1 year, I was his roommate, right? So just to, have conversations about life, basketball, like that was our foundation off the court. Me and Jason are still close friends to this day. He's also the head coach of the Mavs. Me doing my nonprofit work, and at one point before the nonprofit work, selling technology to NBA teams and coaches. I've had interaction with Jason over the years, and now him with the Mavs, they're a customer of my previous sports technology company. So again, playing with him, Sharif Abdul Rahim, who runs the G League today, Tony Gonzalez, who we'll see on the air tonight, doing Thursday night football.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my brothers in arms, and we do a pretty good job of staying in contact, really supporting or knowing what everyone has on, good, bad, and indifferent, and finding some ways just to connect or stay connected. And one big kind of connection ground for us has been NBA Summer League. Just Vegas in the summer, get to come out, watch some good basketball, kind of network, and kind of check in with one another.
So Tony Gonzalez, could he hoop? You know what I'm saying? Or was he just kind of like a body? He was an athlete. We already know how phenomenal of an athlete he was, but could he actually hoop?
Yeah, Tony could hoop, and he has like a quiet personality. He has kind of like the Travis Kelce, give me the ball or else. And so I never forget Tony coming from football right into basketball. He was such an exceptional athlete. He didn't need to like a couple of days off. Like football was always right into basketball. That was unfortunate for some of us coming to those shell drills. I mean, Tony was really physical, roughhoused it, and Charles Barkley type of statue, and just would just rough it. So a pretty good player, in my opinion. I think Tony could have pursued the NBA had football not been his first love. So Tony was very talented.
That's cool. My generation, we had Julius Peppers, who played both, and he actually, like I said, he could play. Younger generation right here in the DMV, Chase Young, he played basketball for DeMatha, but he was much better at football. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
I asked you about Tony Gonzalez, like I seen some tape. I used to watch y'all back then. I'm a little younger, but I knew he could play some ball. But getting that firsthand experience from you is something that's unique for me because, again, you got to see him day in and day out. And Tony Gonzalez played for the Atlanta Falcons. That's my favorite team. So I got love for him. But anyway, moving forward, you gave a good segue because, of course, you go on to play some professional basketball. And ultimately, you become the founder and CEO of a team. Like I mentioned in the opening, you also had some coaching experience. You mentioned one piece of that journey. We got a little bit of time left. Just give us kind of an overview of all that and how that worked out for you. And what were your aspirations when you were leaving Cal? And what did you learn along that path?
Yeah, so I like to put it in kind of like the umbrella, if you will. So leaving Cal, I would say that was my pivoting from playing actually into coaching. I became a high school head coach at a local high school in the Bay Area. Then that was a stepping stone to me becoming a D1 assistant for X amount of years. And then the next pivot for me was going from coaching into sports technology realm, where I had the unique opportunity in working for a sports technology company. We know it today as Huddle, but it was called Sports Tech at the time, prior to acquisition. I was a senior account manager working way up to VP of Business Development. But say all that to say, I was given a BlackBerry, a mandate, sell this, to NBA and high major Division I programs. And by the way, good luck. We had such a small team, and to me, that just opened up a world of possibilities and opportunities because we were successful in doing it. So today, that specific technology is used by all 30 NBA teams, all 12 WNBA teams, including expansion ones, G League, and probably about 95% of the college, Big Five, D1 basketball market. So we did a lot of damage over a 10-year period. But what I saw selling this, technology to coaches, I got to meet NBA head coaches, general managers as decision making. So that was an interesting transition because I was a student athlete coach, And now I'm on the business side trying to, sell people value propositions and trying to understand that new game, if you will. And one of the challenges I had to navigate was just imagine me being on the other side of it, going to the University of Maryland, having to interact with coaches that either recruited me or I played against. And I'm there for business, but they want to go down memory lane. Like, I wasn't playing with Sharif and this and that. I'm like, it was great, but can you consider this invoice, right? So that was my first professional opportunity to understand how to own that, have that conversation, because it was icebreaker, right? Initially I didn't see it as icebreaker. I was like, man, I just can't get past the basketball piece. But I turned that into an asset and just realized that, like anything else recruiting, it's all about relationships. So because I wasn't an a-hole on the court and had some great coaches, came from some good reputable programs, I didn't have no issues getting connected with people, or at least hearing my technology pitch. And as I already mentioned with the numbers, we were very successful selling the sports code platform.
You became known as a godfather of analytics. Analytics is such a big deal today. Some people love it, some people hate it. Last thing I want to know for now, until we have you back, like I said, you're now a friend of the show. Talk about analytics and just your passion about it and how you became, or how you made it to be known as the Godfather of Analytics.
Yeah, it really came back to what I just shared about me selling sports code to basically sports teams in North America. I saw a unique opportunity having that platform that young people didn't have a playing background like myself, wanted to work in sports. If they knew how to navigate the sports code platform, that became an hireable opportunity. And so maybe fast forward, you have decorated coaches today like Mike Brown, Eric Spoelstra. Those guys really started in the video room. So I kind of saw a little niche that if I could, expose that type of technology or mentoring and training to people trying to break into industry, I was kind of on to something. So I had some success mentoring, folks doing that. And so hence that's where the reputation of the Godfather Analytics came from. And to me, put my, thumbnail on the analytics discussion. I think there's a narrative out there that basically says that, front office people today only see numbers making decisions. You got old school coaches like gut feel, I reject analytics, etc. The irony is that it's not even somewhere in between. I don't see them as, mutually exclusive. They're actually together, right? It's a blend of it, right? So I think if you have that intuition, you have to be open that analytics is going to help you validate that intuition and have it be measurable, trackable, et cetera. So I get excited when I have the opportunity to have those conversations. And I try to frame it that analytics is not the boogeyman. It's just a tool in your arsenal, and you should celebrate that. If you have that pedigree of plan and coaching, you're going to have that intuition that nobody can take from you. But you got to be able to communicate those findings. And so analytics is an industry, it's a new language. It's just a way of, validating those intuitions, but talking through it through the lens of stats, like, passes per possession, pace in games, and, pick and roll efficiency. So stuff that people don't know. It's just have to be open to the idea that this is the new language of how you have to express and communicate, what as a player and a coach.
My brother, I appreciate that. And that's our time right there. Like I said, for now, I got some other stuff I want to ask you in the future because, you played in an era where I appreciated basketball so much. I'm not as high on today's NBA game. College is a lot different now. NIL, these are guys making a lot of money at a young age. I can't imagine what that would look like for you back then, but we'll hold that. I appreciate you again for your time. And before you go, I just want to let you or give you an opportunity for you to drop, where people can follow you at on social and where they can find you at on a day in and day out basis. Maybe we can bring you back to X. Look like you ain't been on Twitter, quote unquote, for quite some time.
No, I got you. The best platform to maybe learn who I am, what I've got going on today is my nonprofit website. It's the nonprofit is Team Inc. Technology Exposure and Access to Mentoring. The website is www.weareteaminc.org. That's WEARETEAMINC.org. We Are Team Inc. is also IG, X, or Twitter handle as well. So those are platforms that you can kind of pull up, kind of learn what's going on, and more importantly, best way to connect with you.
Well, I appreciate it. Again, we'll drop that in the link, folks. Follow my guy, Anwar McQueen. We hope to have you back on, as I mentioned. And yeah, man, continued success with all that you got going on. Many blessings your way. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks a lot, Ray. And hopefully I get the opportunity to come back as well.
All right. I appreciate it. Have a good day, man.
Okay.
That was the great Anwar McQueen. Hey, thanks for pulling up, folks. Before I get out of here, man, I just want to, again, ask you all to check out the home of the Urban Sports Scene, urbansportscene.com. Also, check out the Urban Sports Scene on all your social media platforms, X, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Also, please, if you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not already liking and subscribing to the Urban Sports Scene. Check us out also on Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, all your podcast platforms. Again, just search the Urban Sports Scene, and also join our Urban Sports Scene Facebook group. Just search Urban Sports Scene. Sports bloggers, sports podcasters, and sports debates. Well, family, that is it for me. Thank you for all who pulled up, who had comments. You got any questions? Of course, hit up the Urban Sports Scene. Check us out anytime on Tuesdays mainly, though. We're live every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Man, check out my guy, Wole. He wasn't here with me today, but, Wole is doing his thing, man. He's always covering the Commanders, the Ravens. He has Candy and Carito on from Bowie Sports TV. Dope stuff going on here in the Urban Sports Scene. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our HBCU content. HBCU Corner, we interview some of the best players and coaches amongst the HBCU ranks. We believe that the Urban Sports Scene is one of those platforms that continues to build up our HBCUs, both from an academic level and an athletic standpoint. We appreciate you all for listening. And as Wole would say, I don't never get this right. I'm going to try today. You've been listening to the Urban Sports Scene for ages. You dig. Deuces, I'm going to give you the fist, not the peace sign. Love you all. Appreciate you for pulling up and tuning into the Urban Sports Scene.